Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rachakudash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is The New Moon. And pretty much this lesson is inspired by a comment that was put on the video I did last night dealing with the quick exhortation. And a brother had asked a question on the comment board. Shalom, can you do a video concerning the new moon Sabbath? So I took note of it and put some scriptures together to go into it. And you know, in the past we would get like a little frustrated because it's like, here it is, the severity of this, you know, of this quick exhortation here. And, you know, for someone to come and ask a question like that, you know, dealing with a video, you know, of this importance, we would get a little frustrated. But I thought about it. I said, well, the brother's probably new. He probably just wants to know. So, you know, our job as being teachers and and guides, you know, I'm going to go ahead and do a lesson on it, you know, because obviously the brother doesn't know how to keep it. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to teach. So the way that you keep a Sabbath, right? Or should I say the way the scriptures say, let's go real quick to Leviticus. Scripture says 6 days shall work be done, and on the seventh day shall be the Sabbath of rest. As we read here in Leviticus 23:1. Excuse me. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, concerning the feasts of the Lord, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest. And holy convocation, you shall do no work therein. It is a Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. And the word Sabbath means rest. So if it says 6 days of work are to be done, and the seventh is a Sabbath, where do you begin to count from? You know, because in this society, you have people that keep it Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, and that's not in the scriptures. They say that goes all the way back, you know, thousands of years, and it's never been changed, and this, that, and the other. You know, I mean, if that's what they want to believe, oh well. So when does it begin, and how does it begin? Well, we have to understand how, you know, time works as far as the scriptures are concerned. So when we go to the book of 1 Samuel, the 20th chapter, you know, in 1 Samuel, the 20th chapter, you have some type of clue as to how things or count as far as, you know, time is concerned. So we have 1 Samuel chapter 20, verse 24. It says, So David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon was come, the king sat him down to eat meat. It says, And the king sat upon his seat, as at other times, even upon a seat by the wall. And Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side, and David's place was empty. Nevertheless, Saul spake not anything that day, for he thought, something hath befallen him. He is not clean. Surely he is not clean. And it came to pass on the morrow, which was the second day of the month. So we have a clue here that the new moon is the first day of the month. And this is why we follow the new moon when we calculate, our times, our Sabbaths, our high holy days, so on and so forth. Because the new moon is the beginning of the month. It is the very first day of the month. It is the reason why, or it is the reason why the word month is called month, because it's named after the moon. And there's a reason why the moon goes through different phases and different changes, because it gives you the different phases to follow during that month. Because we didn't have calendars, back in the days. We didn't have, posted calendars everywhere, and everybody, you go at the end of the year, you go to your local pharmacy and get you, a calendar like you do today, So the new moon is the first day of the month, because here we read that on the second day of the month, David's place was empty. And we also found out that King Saul didn't say anything because he thought that David's place being empty, he must have been unclean, and on the new moon is also, a Sabbath also, which we're going to get to, as we progress on in this lesson. All right, so now let's go from there. Let's go to the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43 and verse 6. It says, he made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. So everything, the sun, the moon, the stars, everything was set up to follow a certain cycle, to keep us, in tune with time. And this is why you had, a group of men among Issachar. It's in Chronicles, I believe it is, that used to, all they did was just watch for the new moon to come in. That was their whole job. Because once the new moon came in, everything was shut down. It would be the first Sabbath, you would blow the trumpet, and that would begin the count, for the rest of the month, until the next new moon will come, in the a month later. So let's go real quick before we read on. Let's go to Genesis. Because the Lord gave us everything that we need, The only problem is we lost a lot of that science. So we're going to get that back when the kingdom is established. Genesis 1:14, it says, and the power said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, because everything has a cycle that it goes through. Matter of fact, let me see if I can find this one precept in Wisdom of Solomon. I believe that's the 7th chapter. And King Solomon was an expert, in time. He was an expert in everything, but he was an expert as far as time is concerned. Let me see if I can find this one verse. Right. Wisdom of Solomon 7:16. For in his hand are both we and our words, all wisdom also, and knowledge of workmanship. For he hath given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely, to know how the world was made, and the operation of the elements, which we've gone over this before, the beginning, ending, and midst of times, everything from the beginning all the way to the end, the alteration of the turning of the sun and the change of seasons, the circuits of years and the position of stars, because he knew, how to, count from one year to the next. He was a perfect he was a perfect calendar maker, so to speak. He had everything down to a science, which we're gonna get that back in the kingdom of heaven. Okay, so let's go back to Ecclesiasticus 43:7. It says, "From the moon is the sign of feasts, a light that decreaseth in her perfection." So it says here, from the moon is a sign of feasts. Let's get one quick precept. Psalms 81 and 3. It says, "Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day." Okay, so every time the new moon would come in, you would blow the horn, and it was a celebration, So blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day. Solemn feast day. Let's go back. It says, "A light that decreaseth in her perfection." So why does it say a light that decreaseth in her perfection? Because when the new moon comes in, it's at its lowest. I don't want to. It's not a dark moon, because the moon has its own light. It's just not as bright as it is as you get towards the middle of the month. But when you could barely see anything, in the moon, in the heavens, that's the new moon. That's why it says it decreaseth in her perfection, because that's when it's perfectly coming in, and when we perfectly know that it is the new moon, when you could barely see any light in it. It says the month is called after her name. Why? That's why you have the word month comes from the word moon. If you look that up on the etymology or whatever the case may be, you're going to see that the word month comes from the word moon. Right? It says increasing wonderfully in her changing. And once the new moon comes in, then it starts to what? It starts to increasing wonderfully in her changing. And that's what happens as each day progresses in the month. The light of the moon starts to, increase a little at a time. That's why you have something called crescent moons. Now, a crescent moon, the word crescent goes back to the Latin word crescere, which means to grow. Because when the new moon comes in, it's barely a slither of light, and then it starts to grow. And that's where you get the word crescent from. Right? It says increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. All right. Now let's go from there to the book of Amos, chapter 8. Okay. Amos chapter 8 and I'll start at 4. It says, "Hear this, O ye that swallow up the needy, even to make the poor of the land to fail, saying, when will the new moon be gone?" Now listen good to what they're going to say. Saying, when will the new moon be gone? This is these wicked individuals saying, when will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn. So if the new moon is up and you can't sell, what does that mean? that means that the new moon is a Sabbath, because the only other time you can't sell any of your goods is on the Sabbath. So saying, when will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn, and the Sabbath, that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small and the shekel great, and falsifying the balances of deceit. So pretty much, this is why we keep, our Sabbaths according to the new moon. So when the new moon comes in, that's the first day of the month. Then 6 days work is done, and then the seventh day would be the Sabbath, which would be the 8th day. But the seven, from the new moon to the next Sabbath is 7 days in between. All right, and then when you come to the end of the month, then you have the transition, and then the next new moon comes in, and then that's how you continue the cycle of the Sabbaths. Okay, now let's go from there to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 46 and 1. It says, "Thus saith the Lord, power, the gate of the inner court that looketh toward the east shall be shut the 6 working days." So whenever you have a working day, these gates were supposed to be shut. And they're not supposed to be open. Working days, these gates are shut. But on the Sabbath, so when the Sabbath comes in, it shall be open. So on the Sabbath day, these gates will be open, and in the day of the new moon, it shall be open. Why? Because these are Sabbaths. These are Sabbaths. So this is why we keep, the new moon Sabbaths, according to how we keep them. And it's a lot easier, to follow than, your typical Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Because that's what Amalek does. Amalek, keeps, the so-called Sabbath from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, because they're giving reverence to Saturn. This is why they're always dressed in black. They have, just the whole, everything is black, 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 black. So we don't want to follow, behind them devils. So the Spirit, has showed Elder Pastor years ago how to go into this, and when pretty much we was pretty much forced to leave One West, because Bishop Nathaniel and some of them other guys, they got into King Masha's ear and made him leave his friend, High Priest Arya. And here it is, they just wanted to separate so that they can do their own bullshit. And then when they got to the new school at, the House of David, we went with them. We went with the king. Them guys that don't know shit, they threw the making of the calendar upon Pastor's lap. So what did the Pastor do? He just took it and, did the research, put it all together, and boom. That's what them guys do. They don't know shit. And the stuff that they don't want to deal with, they just throw it to somebody else. The things that they think are hard, they just throw it to somebody else. Like when we got kicked out of the House of David, one of the things that they did when they had us, you know, in those councils, was they told Apostle that he has to go to the Sabbath service. You know, like that was a punishment. You know, you have to come to the Sabbath service. Apostle said, okay, no problem. You know, like to them, that's a punishment. They show you how wicked them individuals were, man. You know, and here it is, like Apostle Torah said, you know, they even ended up kicking, you know, King Masha out of his, you know, out of the house of David. They ended up kicking King David out of the house of David. Show you how reservoir dog them dudes were, man. You know. But yeah, you know, that's pretty much, you know, the how we keep the Sabbath, you know, from the new moon. So, you know, I hope that this brother's question, Ahab Kassad, I hope his question was answered. Shalom, can you do a video concerning the new moon Sabbath? You know, so with that, you know, I pray, like I said, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Until the next time I say Shalom.